The Law of Money, Chapter 9. Small money is the doorway to big money. A story of what we were taught and what we had to unlearn. When I look back at my childhood, money did not arrive as numbers. It arrived as feelings. It arrived as folded bills, placed carefully on the wooden table during Tết. It arrived as whispers between adults, as sighs when expenses were mentioned, as sharp words when something was considered too expensive. And most of all, it arrived as lessons, unspoken, repeated, absorbed, about what kind of money mattered and what kind did not. Without realizing it, many of us were taught something quietly dangerous. Only big money counts. Little money, through tone rather than words, was embarrassing. It was not worth mentioning. It was something to grow out of, not something to respect. And that lesson, learned early, follow us into adulthood like a shadow we never question. The first wrong lessons, little money is nothing. As children, we learn by watching. We watch adults dismiss small coins left on the table. We watch them frown at small payments and frighten only at large ones. We heard sentences like, "That's too little," or "It's not worth the effort." No one explained why, only that little money did not deserve attention. So we absorbed a belief money has to be big to be meaningful. When we receive small allowances or gifts, the reaction matters more than the amount. If adults brush it aside or treat it as casually, we learn to do the same. Gratitude was often reserved for larger sums. Excitement was proportional to size. Little money became invisible, and invisibility is the first form of rejection. How this lesson quietly shaped us. As we grew older, that early lesson matured with us. We became adults who felt disappointed by modest paychecks. We felt insulted by small opportunities. We postponed gratitude, telling ourselves we would feel thankful later when money looked the way we thought it should. We worked but resented the early stages. We earned but felt dissatisfied. We waited for the real money to begin our respect. And without knowing, we kept repeating the same message that had absorbed it as children. You are not enough yet. Money heard that message clearly. A childhood memory that changed everything. I remember a moment, small, almost forgettable, yet it stayed with me. I was young, and someone gave me a small amount of money. I don't remember the exact number, only the feeling. It was modest, unimpressive. I remember glancing at an adult's face, searching for a clue on how to react. The response was neutral, almost dismissive. In that moment, I learned something powerful and wrong. This doesn't matter. Years later, I realized how deep that lesson went. It taught me to wait for validation before appreciation, to delay respect until something grew large enough to impress. But money does not grow under conditional respect. The quiet consequence of that teaching, rejecting little money, does not feel like rejection. It feels like practicality, like ambition, like standards. But underneath, it carries distrust. When we reject little money, we are telling life, I don't trust your process. We are saying, show me the result first, then I will honor it. But trust does not work that way, whether with people, with life, or with money. Trust is built in small, repeated moments. Money is not offended by smallness, it is offended by disregard. The moment of relearning at some point in adulthood, often through struggle, disappointment, or exhaustion, we begin to notice a pattern. We work hard, yet money feels distant. Opportunities appear but never seem to grow. We chase, but nothing stays. This is often when a quiet question surfaces. What if the problem isn't money, but my relationship with it? That question changes everything. Because when you look closely, you realize something unsettling. You treat small money the same way you treat small moments, with impatience, and life always starts small. Seeing little money as a child again, but differently. This is a kind of innocence in little money. It arrives without pressure. It asks nothing dramatic. It simply says, I'm here. When we welcome it, not with excitement but with respect, we heal an old misunderstanding. Little money is not testing your ambition, it is testing your attention. It asks, will you acknowledge me? Will you care for me? Will you handle me with dignity? These are not financial questions, these are relational ones. How we were taught wrong and why it was understandable. Our parents, our elders did not mean to teach us poorly. Many of them lived through scarcity, instability, and survival mode. For them, big money meant safety, little money meant uncertainty. So they focus on outcomes, not process, on survival, not relationship, on results, not freedom. They taught us what they knew, but what protected them may limit us. The correct lesson we must teach ourselves. The correction is gentle, not dramatic. Little money is not beneath you. Little money is training you. It teaches responsibility without overwhelming you. It teaches consistency without pressure. It teaches gratitude without entitlement. When you welcome little money, you say to life, I am paying attention, and life responds to attention. A new way of remembering childhood. When I think back now, I imagine the different response to that childhood moment. What if someone had said, this matters? And if gratitude had been moral, not measured, and if little money had been treated like a seed, not a failure, that single shift would have taught trust instead of impatience, and trust is the soil where money grows. How little money learns where to stay. Money, like people, stays where it feels respected. When small money arrives in it and is welcome, counted carefully, used intentionally, appreciated quietly, it learns something important. I belong here. That sense of belonging is what allows growth. Big money is not a different species. It is a little money that stays long enough to mature. The story money is watching you tell. Every interaction with money is a sentence in a story. When you dismiss little money, the story says, I only value what impresses. When you welcome it, the story says, I understand beginnings. Money chooses which stories it wants to continue, changing the pattern one small moment at a time. The repair does not happen overnight. It happens when you pause instead of rushing, when you acknowledge instead of dismissing, when you stop waiting for more to begin your respect. It happens when you say quietly, this is enough for now. Enough does not mean final, it means honor, teaching the next generation differently. If you have children or simply influence others, you now carry a responsibility. How you react to little money teaches more than lectures ever could. When you show respect early, you teach patience. When you show gratitude early, you teach trust. When you show care early, you teach abundance. When you teach that money is relationship, not a reward. The doorway reveal, little money is not a destination, it's a doorway. And doorways are not meant to be admired or ignored. They are meant to be passed through, but only those who recognize the door can open it. The final correction, the truth we must unlearn and relearn is simple. Money does not ask, how big are you ready to be? It asks, how faithful are you with what arrives? Little money arrives first because trust must come before expansion. And when you finally understand this, not intellectually but relationally, you stop chasing big money. You start welcoming money at any level. And that is when the doorways opens, not suddenly, not loudly, but naturally, as if it had been waiting for you all along. Thank you so much and I hope you enjoy it. Please help me to subscribe my channel to support me and tune in to chapter 10.